Hi, everyone, and welcome back or welcome to the SirLinksalot podcast. I'm your host, Artemis. And a few weeks ago, actually, I was having a conversation with SirLinksalot founder, Nick. And we were chatting about the different industries that will be affected by the most recent trend of heavily incorporating AI in search. And then the legal field came up in our conversation. I thought, wait a minute, I know just the person that I would love to chat more about this with. Now, today's guest is someone who's not only on the cutting edge of legal marketing, but also deeply committed to doing things the right way. Megan Hargroder is the founder of Legends Legal Marketing, an agency that helps lawyers build standout brands and powerful online presences through award-winning branding and strategy, hard-winning copy, and building sites that actually work. She has over 15 years of experience in the legal marketing specifically, and describes the decision to lean into the legal niche as the best business decision that I've ever made. In this episode, we're diving into how AI is transforming the way that people search for lawyers online, and what attorneys can do to stay ahead without overcomplicating things or chasing gimmicks. Now, Megan believes that the best results come from smart, sustainable strategies, and today she's going to show us how. So let's get into it. First of all, Megan, thank you so much for hopping on.
Yes, thank you so much. This is really exciting.
Likewise, I'm really excited to dive in and hear your thoughts. So, the first thing that I love the most about your marketing journey in general is that it started with a trade, right? So, it was social media help for yoga classes. And I think that's probably my favorite origin story. And it speaks a lot to your personality of just getting things done, but also the right way. So, I would love to know, what did this chapter in your journey teach you about hustle, creativity, or just finding your footing in the new industry that you might have carried throughout the past 15 years along with you?
Yeah, it kind of started with just being like, what is no one else doing? So no one was using social media for their businesses at the time. And I wanted to take these yoga classes, but I couldn't afford them. So I just brokered a deal with the studio owner and was like, hey, can I take classes for free? And if so, I'll start a whole social media thing for you. I'll get more people coming to classes. I said that. I didn't know if I could do it at the time because I'd never done it before. But luckily it did work and more people came to class. So then she told her other friends that own businesses that I did this for her. And then they started hiring me. And then eventually that's how I sort of got my first lawyer client and was able to start working with lawyers who I really liked and decided to niche to. But I would say the basic principles that worked then that are still working now are just the trying and doing your best and working hard. It's so wild how many people are doing this and they're just kind of checking boxes, or they think there's some kind of special skill required. The special skill is the hustle. That was true back then, and that is true now. Back then it was like the FindLaw was the big company that all of the lawyers would go to for their websites, and they give them these really ugly cookie cutter things, and they wouldn't touch social media. They were afraid of it. Now you have all of these legal marketing agencies because the cat's out of the bag that lawyers are the biggest spenders of marketing dollars. So there's all these fly by night companies, all of these people just selling, pitching, because it's an easy money grab to a lot of people. So surviving for 15 years has actually been really, really easy because all I did was really good work for everyone that came to me. And all I did was try my best. And if I didn't know how to do it, I figured it out. That's what we did in the early days. We didn't know how all these things worked. We just kind of played with them and then figured it out. And those things are still true today, is you figure it out as you go. You try your best. You kind of make it up as you go in a lot of cases. And then you don't get it right every time. And you don't promise to get it right every time. And then you adjust when things are not working.
Right. I'm so curious. Were lawyers normally receptive to this kind of scrappy approach? I know that succeeding in the industry in general requires a lot of testing and sometimes testing out things that might not always work. Do they kind of understand the process, or did you have to have this kind of barrier to entry for breaking it down for them as far as it goes?
The lawyers that I worked with in the early days were very receptive to this. It was solo lawyers who had really niche practices. A lot of them had just left a large law firm, so they were starting their own thing. So they were like, let's try it. Let's see what works. Let's see what sticks. That's not something that I see so much now. Now lawyers want like a tried and true plan. And like after 15 years and, hundreds and hundreds of projects, we have the data to to give them that plan. But I always ask people for flexibility because everything's so different for each I know if you're not a lawyer listening to this, you're like, marketing for lawyers and solo and small firms is so specific. It must just be the same thing every time, but it's really not. It's very custom, and it depends on your location, your demographics, your practice area, and then the lawyer themselves, like their personalities and what they're willing to do. Because if you have a lawyer who's not doesn't have that charisma, like we're not putting them on camera, it's not going to do them any favors. So it really depends on the actual person.
Right. I also follow quite a few lawyers actually on not just TikTok, but also on LinkedIn, just because I think that legal social media strategies can be really interesting because they cover a lot of things that a lot of people are wondering about, but they can't really access that kind of information easily. So I think that legal content has a huge opportunity in general to test out those new things. So do you guys kind of like, even though you guys have your tried and true strategy now, do you find yourself testing out new things kind of more often in the short form video landscape nowadays too?
In the content landscape, we're always sort of adjusting. That said, there's things we don't do. Like our lawyers are not going to hop on the TikTok dance trend at any time. They're not going to be like, you're not going to see them like pointing to bubbles, like doing this whole number where the stuff pops up on the screen, because we're trying new things, but with the goal of longevity. So if your thing is hopping on the next trend, then your thing has to always be that you're hopping on the next trend, rather than we want to try new things, but we want to build a base layer that's sustainable. And then we want to add content to that and focus on like the question of everything we're creating. Like, does this add value? How does this add value? Is this something that if the target client comes to and finds this, I do agree that entertainment's important, especially with like the, millennials and Gen Zs kind of like taking over this, landscape in general. You have to get people's attention. You can't create something that's too long because, and that's the problem with lawyers. They're very long-winded and wordy, and they have a lot of information. So like having them pull back and be like, just give this piece or just give this piece is probably the biggest challenge. But now it's like, we just get them to record something and we just chop it up and we use what we
Right.
can, get rid of the rest. And I have some lawyer clients who play with AI videos on their own. So
Really?
yeah, they'll do the, and they're so proud of themselves when they make something. It's so cute. And so someone came to me with where, it's like a person, but it's not a real person. It's an AI person. And they call them their paralegal and all this other stuff. And I was like, I shouldn't have to explain legal ethics to a lawyer, but you cannot imply that this not real person is a real person that works within your firm, because there's actual legitimate legal ethics rules against that. So you have to be
it's
careful.
sticky.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray area, but in the early days of social media, lawyers were scared of it and they were worried about ethics violations because there are so many rules around legal advertising. And now they're doing this shit. They're doing this.
You can speak freely.
Okay.
This is an egalitarian podcast.
Right. Now they're doing this shit where they're creating AI people and saying these are actual people who work in the firm. And I'm like, no, that's how you'll get an ethics violation. So somehow the fear of an ethics violation has just gone completely away from most lawyers.
Sorry, I feel the need. I didn't plan on picking your brain about this, but this is super interesting to me. I used to also work in real estate. I used to do a lot of work for real estate as far as like the marketing side of things goes. And we had this really large kind of laundry list of things that we could not say because in the US, you have a lot of regulations as to fair housing acts, and you can't say anything that would even imply discrimination. Like you can't say this would be a great place for families because you're implying that you're going to discriminate against people if they're not families. How tricky is it to kind of dodge that when you're doing legal marketing?
It's pretty simple for lawyers. Like you can't misrepresent yourself. You can't misrepresent your business. In some states, you can't use a trade name. Like the firm name has to be the actual name of your business or the name of the lawyers. That's why you see most firms are like the names of lawyers, because that's an old rule that stuck around. But the big one is you can't say you are the best, and you can't say you are a specialist or specialized. So Those have been the two big rules. However, these are the two most problematic rules now. I know we haven't touched AI search yet, but we're going there. But I just, since we're talking about this,
Go for it.
right now, when people are searching for lawyers using an AI engine, using LLMs, they are typing in who's the best divorce lawyer in Austin, Texas. Okay. They are using the word best. So obviously, we're crawling websites for indicators of the best. And there's a lot of other indicators besides the word best. But the word best helps, and you can't technically use it. I have found an ethical loophole for this. I'm not going to say exactly what it is on this podcast because right now I'm implementing it for all my clients and I want to be first to market on the idea. So there is an ethical loophole. And some lawyers are just doing it unethically, right? Some lawyers are just putting stuff all over their website saying best. And maybe they'll get in trouble. Maybe they won't. A lot of times it's dependent upon peers actually like filing against them for whatever reason, or, you know, tattling on them to the bar, which is not as common as it used to be.
Yeah, but I imagine that it's still something that you want to avoid at all costs because, especially you as a marketer, if something goes haywire with your content, then you could actually be probably held liable. Now, me personally, I'm obviously not a lawyer, but it's something that I would be nervous about. I've even heard about companies getting massive fines for doing things like using content that's not approved for free usage, that's, you know, copyrighted content, things like that. So I imagine that's something they could ding you on too. Have you heard of any stories about something like that happening?
It's not something technically that I could get dinged on because my clients do approve their content before it goes out. And like, I kind of do have a contract that sort of says, you know, you are responsible for, you know, reviewing content before it goes out as the lawyer. So it's not something that I would personally get in trouble for, but it's also something I take seriously as a responsibility to my clients because I know they don't always read everything thoroughly. So it's something that I train all of my employees on, like in great detail when they first start working. And it's something we check for. Like we have a rule about there's always an extra set of eyes that go on everything before it reaches the client. So we have a lot of rules because I take it seriously. I've worked with a lot of lawyers who were working specifically in the legal ethics arena. Like there's entire lawyers who all they do is help other lawyers with legal ethics issues who are either like in trouble or got violations or need some kind of training. So that's like a whole thing that some people do. And I've worked with enough of those people to know that these situations do happen. And when they do happen, they are serious. So even some of my clients who are a little more relaxed, again, I'm usually the one pointing out, hey, we can't do it this way, but maybe we could try it this way. So I'm just always looking for the little loopholes. And like I said, I just found one that I got really excited about. So we're just like rolling it out for everyone right now so we can get first to market. And you know, when you do it first, it matters the most.
Absolutely, for sure. And I think that it's really interesting to have this conversation about how you kind of like legally buffer yourself when dealing with legal clients as well. And I remember that you mentioned in a previous podcast interview that you did that I was listening to that a law firm to you works a lot like a marketing agency, which was a super interesting comparison. So do you see any overlap between the strategy that you've been applying for your clients and what you do for your own business right now with like new recent industry changes, especially like the advent of AI and things like that?
I think the big thing is just the being a real person. And that's been something that's worked for me as a marketing agency, is like being a real person that tries to help people. Now, that's not to say that's what most marketing agencies do. It's just what's helped me. And it's not what most law firms do, but it is what has helped my clients, is being a real person who can establish trust and a connection with someone. My client may be getting way less traffic than this other big deal lawyer, but they may be getting the same amount of clients because when people get to their website, they're like, oh, I want to hire this person. So it's not always like more is more. There's a qualitative value for the websites. And then there's also something that I learned pretty late to the game from the work that I've done for my clients that I've recently applied to my agency. And that is the power of local search. Since my agency is national, we haven't really done any SEO work for the company. We haven't, everything comes through referrals, but now I'm growing and I'm like, well, I should have a stream of clients or potential clients coming in through organic search. And I should be doing this, if nothing else, as a way to prove, look, I'm good at this. I did it for my own business. So this past year, we finally started doing SEO on our own website and using local search tools to get found in specific cities that we're targeting right now. I do offer like non-competes to all my clients. So there's certain cities that I'm like, I have a client in every practice area in that city, so I'm not targeting them. And then I have like wish list cities. So we started doing that type of outreach and I'm like, oh my God, this works, right? I know it works. We've been doing it for our clients, but then when it works for you, it's like really exciting. So I got to sit on the other side of that where I'm like watching my calendar fill up with people who said, I found you from Google. And I'm like,
right. It's super exciting, isn't it?
Really cool.
I did make a note of that, by the way. Your website looks fantastic. So bravo, or brava. And I noticed that in general, the copy is also really up to date. I was following your social media, both of your social media pages, and you do already have a lot of commentary, like as it's rolling in. It's not just something that you're just applying to your clients. You're clearly making sure to stay on top of your content game and your online presence yourself as well. It made me think about how it seems that nowadays, with all these recent industry changes, we can stay on top of it. But I noticed that a lot of clients get a little bit nervous. They don't know what to think about things like AI in the search landscape. So this content is super helpful for them so they can kind of form their opinion and feel less terrified of it, I'd imagine. I'm curious to know what reaction your clients have had when it comes to AI, and are they nervous? Should they be nervous? How do they react to the content that you post about it?
I mean, realistically, we should all be nervous about the singularity coming our way, but some of them are nervous and some of them are leveraging the tools. The ones who are leveraging the tools are the ones going to be continuously successful. The ones who are the most nervous are often firms whose work is rooted in contract drafting or so like people who specifically their firms work for businesses to draft contracts, right? We're all kind of using these AI tools to draft our contracts now. So we're less likely to go to a lawyer for this. Estate planning, making it all of these things. So there's a lot less manual drafting that has to be done with contracts and legal documents because we can have those things done. So those lawyers, for the most part, are getting really nervous. And I'm kind of like trying to talk them down because fear is like not a really useful emotion unless you use it for leverage. And the way you use it to leverage it is the acknowledgement of like, hey, it's a reality that AI is not going anywhere and that people are using it this way. So then where can I pivot to offer something for people who have already thrown their contract through AI, right? They've thrown it through, but like all of the I's are not dotted, all of the T's are not crossed. So can I offer a flat rate service where I'm the lawyer with human eyes that does a final look over on the contract and gives you this? And maybe there's an additional service that can be added onto that. Maybe there's a package. Maybe the lawyers themselves can leverage AI to streamline the document creation and then offer more flat rate packages. So there's opportunity for everyone. But not everyone's seeing the opportunity. A lot of people are seeing the fear. And so a lot of those contract drafting lawyers are like, AI's, it's not legit. It's not this. It's not, I'm not subscribing to this. I'm not using it. And it's like, you can't just opt out because it's happening.
Right. And I noticed that I was speaking with a previous guest about how it seems like this has kind of been the attitude around a lot of major technological advancements. Now, none of them have been as massive and as world shaking as AI. And I do understand a lot of valid concerns about it. But like you said, it's really not going anywhere. So I feel like the people who adapt to it are probably in a better place in general. But I do understand kind of the hesitation. So right now, AI is changing the way that people do people pretty much everything, now that I think about it. Especially like searching for things. And like you said before, you mentioned that people were searching for like the best pretty much just taking their previous Google queries and shoving it into the ChatGPT or whatever they're using. Have you noticed any other changes similar to that in the way that people are searching for lawyers at this moment?
Yeah, that's been the biggest shift. So
Right.
pretty much across the board, lawyers are seeing a decrease in overall traffic. Not all of them are seeing a decrease in leads, because sometimes that's just people doing a search in ChatGPT, finding them, and then calling them from there. So they're bypassing the website in some cases. So you're seeing a drop in traffic that way. On the flip side, you're seeing a drop in traffic because you didn't appear in that search. And so with Google, there's more visibility, or with Google or Bing, or a traditional search engine, there's more visibility because you do a search, you have like maybe your 3-pack pops up, then you have maybe the top law firm websites, some listings that pop up. But if people don't see something that really jives with them, they might do a little scroll, right? So we've seen it where clients may not be ranking at the top, but they've got this really calling meta description that once the person scrolls, they may have scrolled to the bottom of the page, but they see this little meta description and it is exactly what they're looking for. So they're going to click on that site. So those people are missing out on opportunities that they had before. And so that's a big shift that we've seen from AI.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And how do you recommend that people kind of bridge that gap and try to show up more in AI search so that, the regular blue link kind of search that people are used to seeing doesn't really have as much of an effect on their traffic?
The best way is just to get in those top results when people are searching. And so the best ways to do that are actually pretty simple. And these are things that you should have been doing already anyways. But if you're not, like, cool, now's the time. And one is just a really clear message throughout your website of what you do specifically. Niche law firms are performing the best because people are not saying, who's the best lawyer in blah, blah, blah. People are saying, who's the best divorce lawyer? Who's the best estate planning lawyer? Who's the best criminal defense lawyer? People are looking for specific types of lawyers. So generalists are getting left behind in this for the most part. And people who are focused on niches are ranking higher. Having authority badges on your website is really powerful. Google's looking at your awards, your affiliations, not Google, but AI. Actually, Google is too. Everyone's looking at this. This matters for everything. Testimonials, so having really good client reviews on various sources. So currently what's interesting is, so ChatGPT is primarily pulling from like Bing data. Gemini is pulling from Google data. So you want reviews sort of everywhere. You want to have reviews on Google Business, Yelp. Everyone hates Yelp, but you want reviews there. You want reviews on Avo. You want reviews on, various other lawyer listing sites. So you want to have a good amount of reviews everywhere. And then you want to pipe them into your website. And then case studies are also really, really powerful. So all of these engines that are scanning everything are paying attention to all of this. And the rules of like what Google likes are very similar to the rules of what AI likes. And a lot of that is like small, digestible pieces of information that make sense. These LLMs can digest really dense information and simplify it, but they're not prioritizing information like that they have to simplify. They're prioritizing things that have already been simplified for humans.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And it's actually kind of refreshing to hear that the basis seems to be just traditional SEO, but with some caveats, like making sure that things are more simplified so that the bots that crawl the site can pick up on it more accurately for AI. I also remember you recommending that lawyers avoid cutting corners in certain ways when they want to show up in AI search as well. I was wondering, what corners have you noticed that lawyers tend to cut the most in their marketing, where they probably shouldn't be?
The biggest one is the website. Your website is your business online. And a lot of lawyers are not investing in their brands and their stories and a solid foundation of a website. They're kind of cheaping out on the website front. They're going with these plug and play things. They're trying to look professional, but they end up looking sterile. And they don't want anything really personal. They just want it to be very, very dry and straightforward and matter of fact. Those are the lawyers that are spending so much more money on marketing, so much more than they're spending if they would have just gotten a really, really good website from the beginning. And a good website, again, is one that tells a clear story, it's very obvious what you do and who you are, that looks and feels like you, and just overall is highlighting your skills as a lawyer, how you help your clients, but at the same time feels authentic. Because there's ways to do it where I've seen people be like, okay, I've got a story styled website. I've got this pretty branding. I've got this, I've got that. And then you go there and you're like, this is not authentic. I know that this person looked at someone else's website and kind of copied it and just, fit things into boxes. So your website is at the center of your brand. So it really should be built around who you are as a person, because people will call bullshit and they will leave and they will go somewhere else. And AI, as it gets smarter, is also really understanding what is authentic, and authentic lawyers can be trusted, and trust is what the engines are looking for when they're delivering these results. When people ask for who is the best lawyer is one you can trust.
Right. I've actually heard that AI is kind of penalizing websites that use AI in content. So, I mean, it adds up. If even the AI wants you to be human, then you've got really no excuse for kind of not trying to promote that authenticity as much as you can. But I know that especially in the legal field, where it can be very sterile content-wise, unless you have like a trusted professional like yourself who clearly knows what they're doing to make that content feel more personable, more relatable, more raw. It definitely is a hurdle for a lot of lawyers, I can imagine. So that makes complete sense. I also want to know, like, this whole personification of these lawyers, humanization is the word I'm looking for. You mentioned that doing this and building trust should be a priority for lawyers right now, because of course the AI does respond well to this. What are the essential ways that you would suggest for your legal clients to do this? Just right off the bat, baseline, this is how you come off as human.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to start with, because we basically do these really invasive deep dive interviews with all of our clients. And then we sort of that's where we go from building the storyline, because a lot of times people don't know what their own story is. So I really do think it takes another person sort of dragging that out and seeing like what's unique about you and pulling that to light. But if someone were just like, what are 2 things I could do like right now just to change my website? I don't want to overhaul it. I don't want to hire a marketer. I just want to do some things. I would say, number 1, make sure there's a picture of your attorney or attorneys at the top of your homepage, because people are hiring people. They're not hiring cityscapes, the scales of justice, or whatever other BS that you have at the top of your website. 10 times out of 10, when I just do that one thing for people, they start getting more calls. So that is the simplest thing you can do. And then the second thing you can do is create a biography page that is a story, not a professional obituary that just lists your accomplishments. That like no one cares. You're a lawyer. We assume you went to law school, so you don't have to talk about.
I would hope so.
Right. We hope that. We assume you got awards. Like just put them in a bullet list at the bottom. That's not the meat and potatoes. I want to know why you're doing this. I want to know your origin story. I want to know what about you I can personally relate to before I go share all of the personal details of my DUI situation with you, or whatever it is that I'm calling you for. Like, I need to feel comfortable talking to you. And that's where the biography page comes in. And that is the second most visited page on any lawyer website. This has been true for 15 years, is the biography page, because when someone who doesn't know you gets to your website, they want to know if they can trust you. So obviously they're going to go read about you. They're going to go from the homepage to the biography page second every single time. And it's the most underutilized page on a lawyer website. So just those 2 things and you will get more phone calls.
That makes complete sense. And because of that, I actually love your liberal usage of the word obituary when referring to very sterile lawyer bios, because I think that we all have experience of going to a website, trying to enlist somebody for a service, especially something as personal as like something you would need legal help for, and then reading the description and seeing like, oh, but who is this guy? Who is this lady?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it matters. I'm curious. This has mattered for the past 15 years. That's not changing. It's not going away. It is what it is. What changes do you see coming within the next couple of years that you would think that a digital marketing professional who works with the legal industry and with lawyers would need to keep an eye out for?
What I'm kind of seeing already with our law firms in transition is, and although like, again, my business is marketing, I'm in the online space, I'm marketing your law firm, but at the same time, in order to do my job well, I really need to understand the inner workings of the law firm. How are things going? How are things being managed? What is your intake process? That's a big thing because you can get a ton of leads, but if you're not actually like closing the deals, then that's a problem too. So what I'm seeing change the most is the internal use of AI within the firm. And I really, unpopular, but I'm going to say it. I see a significant decline in paralegal roles across the board. One of the like primary functions of a paralegal is legal research, which we are doing now through AI. Even the lawyer tools that they've been using, like LexisNexis and all of these other, law library things, are developing AI components within them to simplify the process of legal research. So I think that paralegals are going to be few and far between. And I think what we're going to start seeing is this new role of office manager within law firms, where you have someone overseeing everything from intake to billing to, you'll have all of these streamlined systems and processes in place, but you need someone who knows how they work, who knows how to leverage AI, who knows how to tie all the things together to be there sort of running your business. So as the lawyer, you can still be focused on the legal side of things. And I think it's not gloom and doom. I think this is going to be a really cool position that is going to be open to a lot of people with different types of skill sets. And I think it's going to be a really high paid position because you're really, holding everything together within the business. So I do think people with paralegal degrees should kind of consider shifting into that mindset of like, how can I be a valuable, humans are not going to go away, but some jobs are going to be less important. So it's all about how can I be that central, human element of something, managing what needs to get managed.
Gotcha. So pretty much the generalists, like you mentioned earlier, the law generalists are going to have a harder time because people are searching more for niches. However, internally, people are going to probably become more generalists, is what you're saying, because you're going to need people to kind of span the entire operations with help of AI helping to simplify those systems, right?
That's a really fun way to put it. Yeah, actually, exactly. From a marketing angle, the more specialized, without using the word specialized in the legal industry, because you're not supposed to, the more specialized, the better. And then within the actual firm, the more blanket general skills, the better. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you've given us a lot to chew on today, especially for people who are thinking about niching into the legal industry or lawyers who are trying to figure out where they should go with their marketing from here. So we really appreciate all these insights. And if you guys would like to check out Megan and look at more of her work, we're going to leave a link down in the description for you. So you can go ahead and click on over and see what Legends is about. So Megan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. And for all of our watchers and listeners, we will see you soon.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to give us a like, drop a comment, subscribe, so you don't miss out on any future SEO insights. And hey, if you're serious about your rankings, head over to SirLinksalot.co, check out our premium link building services, guides, and free SEO tools. See you next time.